Man, we got to talk. This team ain't just bad. It's not just bad, right? Like, the team is bad. Make no mistake about it. But at this point, it's just getting ugly to watch. Last night was one of the ugliest games of basketball I have ever seen. Are the Bulls tanking? Are they rebuilding? Whatever they're doing. Like, we're going to talk a little bit about all those things. I think I know what we're doing, but some Bulls fans are disagreeing with that. On top of that, Jeremy Sochan just hit the market. Does he actually make sense for the Chicago Bulls? Or are Bulls fans once again allowing the rumors to make them think something is going to be good for this team that really ultimately won't matter? We're going to talk about it all and more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. Man, this team is bad, and it's not just bad; it's bad to watch, right? Like, the first couple of games with this team that, they were getting that fun bad moniker because, Anthony Simons was scoring flawlessly and this team was like playing with some energy and it was just new, right? I think that was a big part of it. Like, seeing Yves Missi and Nick Richards play the way that they played at the center position was just different, right? Like, different than we had. It added some new complexity to it. And I think there's always something when you have new players on your team, there's always a bit of excitement like, what's this going to look like, right? Like, what is this going to look like? But it's bad. But that's what tanking is, and tanking sucks, right? And that's why, fans that have asked for tanks for years, and, if those same people, I'm saying that specific group, is now still complaining that this Bulls team are unwatchable, what do you expect to happen? That's why I do think that this isn't going to be a multi-year tank. Talk more on that here in a second, right? But while some fans are still debating if this team is actually tanking or not, we talked about that in yesterday's post-game show. There were a couple of people like, listen, I still think with how close the East is, this team is still, AK and Eversley and Billy Donovan and this team is going to look at it and say, hey, we can still make a run here, post All-Star break. And, maybe that's true. Maybe that is what this team is going to try to do when you get, Josh Giddey and Trey Jones and Jalen Smith back on the court. With all the things that have been said about the Bulls are still only 1.5 games back of the Atlanta Hawks now at the 10th seed. And the Charlotte Hornets have moved all the way up to the 9th seed now. They've gone 9-1 in their last 10. The only other team that could really pass up the Chicago Bulls is the Milwaukee Bucks. We sit only a half game above the Milwaukee Bucks, who did get a win yesterday. Shout out to Cam Thomas having a big game for that team. But I think ultimately, and I want to talk about what this tanking job means, right? Like, so many fans, and this goes back to kind of the reactionary more in the era of being in the negative for this team, say, well, it's too late to tank. It's not too late to tank in the situation of the Bulls, and the Bulls aren't trying to catch up with the Indiana Pacers and the Washington Wizards. That's not going to happen. That's not the goal here. The goal isn't for them to bottom out completely. The goal is for them to just make sure they don't make the play-in. And as they can improve their lottery odds as much as possible, that's the goal here. And so, that's what I think I should say is the goal is here. We'll see what happens after the All-Star break. If this brand of basketball that we've seen stays up after the All-Star break, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We need to stop asking the questions on if the Chicago Bulls are tanking and just realize that it's time to embrace the tank, whether you agree with it or disagree with it. And that's what we're doing for the rest of the year, right? So I don't think this team's goal is to have the worst record, even a worst 5 record in the NBA. It is a lottery, right? And the Bulls are just trying. And for all we know, as deep as this draft is, the Bulls can identify 3 or 4 players or 5 players that are going to go in the top 10 and say, hey, if we get any of these players, we're good. We think we got a franchise talent. And that's probably why they're doing this now. It's not about catching up with the Indiana Pacers and Washington Wizards. That's not going to happen. It's about allowing teams like the Charlotte Hornets and the Milwaukee Bucks, since apparently the Bucks haven't learned the lesson that the Bulls have learned either, that they're going to be trying to go for this when Giannis returns. That's probably where what the Bulls are prioritizing and focusing on. Now, like I said earlier, I don't think we see a multi-year tank. I don't think this team is going to be trying to do this next season. I think that they have identified this draft and this offseason, the combination of those two things, the ability to draft a really good player, the flexibility to add another really good player in free agency or restricted free agency, and then kind of more flesh out the roster that makes sense, right? You sign Kobe to $30 million, you sign Ayo Dosunmu to $18 to $20 million, and then your flexibility in what you can kind of rebuild becomes a little bit more strenuous. And so now they freed up themselves where, one of your big acquisitions is going to be in the draft, maybe two of them with the Portland pick, which shout out to the Portland Trailblazers. They keep moving to where we need them to move to. They did lose yesterday. We moved them down to the 10th seed, but I don't think that the Clippers are going to keep it up. I think Kawhi is eventually going to go down. We just need that Portland Trailblazers team to get up to the 8th seed and only have to win one game out of two for us to get that pick. But that's a story for another day, right? But I think that that's the goal. That's the focus of this team. And if they do that, okay, cool, right? They have an opportunity to add one or two players in this draft with maybe a third with having, the New Orleans Pelicans second round pick, which is probably going to be the best pick out the second round. So they have an opportunity there. They have flexibility to put a big offer sheet on a Walker Kessler or Mark Williams or Jalen Duren, whoever that is. They have the flexibility to do that. And then they can decide if anyone they want to keep between Simons, Ivy, Colin Sexton. They have a flexibility to do that. And then hopefully, now that they've cleared the deck, their whole entire bench unit is basically going to be, free agents. Add some more two-way players to kind of build that depth around this team. That's what I think the goal is. But I do think there's a bigger problem with rather than if the Bulls are tanking or not. No one's developing under the way that we're playing the rest of the year. Nobody. Like what we saw out there yesterday, I know a lot of people are going to talk about Rob Dillingham. He finally had a breakout game in a Bulls uniform. And it was good to see Rob Dillingham do that. But even in watching that, nobody developed yesterday. To me, nobody developed. Patrick Williams played 6 more minutes than Matas Buzelis. 6 more minutes than Matas Buzelis. Colin Sexton playing more minutes than Matas Buzelis. Now, Matas was tied for the most shots on the team, but this is why I said before, for years, when people were like, well, we got to get Vooch. How's Matas going to develop with Vooch on this team? If you need for the no other good players to be on your team to develop just so you can get a number of shots, that's how you wind up with a player that then you later on ask, are they a winner? Do they know how to contribute to winning? Can they do those things? That's how you end up with players like that because you haven't put them in a situation where you have actual structure around them. Nobody's going to develop. Now, maybe that changes when Josh Giddey gets back and Trey Jones gets back. Maybe we have more structure and then we can say, hey, we're losing but developing. But the way in the brand of basketball that we're playing right now, ain't nobody developing with this brand of basketball. I want to be clear there. Yes, it was good to see Rob Dillingham have that type of game that he had. 16 points, 6 of 12 from the field, 7 assists, 3 turnovers, 3 steals. It was good to see him to build his confidence, him get a chance to turn loose. But I still don't look at that and say this was a huge developing opportunity for anybody on that court. Now, with that said, who are you really looking to develop at this point, right? It's Matas, maybe Ivy, and maybe Rob Dillingham. Noah Essengay is gone. This would have been a great way for Noah Essengay to get minutes at the end of it. Lachlan Albrecht's only getting 5 minutes on the back end of the bench, right? So you're not getting that from him. So, are you still trying to develop Patrick Williams? Listen, if I hear any quote from a Bulls executive or the head coach and Billy Donovan talk about, oh, we got some development time for P. Will, I'm going to open hand smack every single one of them. Because no, it's done there. It's cooked. It's done, right? But this team has no structure. And it's hard to develop talent no matter what that talent is when you have no structure. I always say this. Talent develops better when you have structure. Now, the hierarchy of that structure can change. And your hope is that, that player is rising up that hierarchy, but you still want a player to develop in structure. If you just go out and say, hey, you're going to go out and get 18 shots per game, that's not necessarily developing because when the team gets good, now how do they know how to operate when they're not going to get those 18 shots per game? What if they can't get into rhythm when they have to take 13 rather than 18, right? That's the thing that you have to look at there. That's why I'm worried about. I say there's a bigger problem than just tanking here. The tanking thing is even if the Bulls aren't tanking, they're not good enough to win these games. They're not going to be good enough with the tough schedule that the Bulls have. They're not going to be good enough to win a lot of these games. So tank or not, you're not going to win a lot of these games. But there's no development structure here, and that's the problem with this. There is no development structure. So this is not only just a year lost for Bulls fans. The second half of this year, what is it? It was 31 games after the trade deadline, if I'm not mistaken. Those 31 games are lost. Those aren't development games for really anybody. Now, like I said, maybe that does change when you get your point guards back. You get Josh Giddey, you get Trey Jones, the guys that can actually run the offense. We don't have any actual point guards. Despite their height, Anthony Simons is not a point guard. Colin Sexton is not a point guard. Colin Sexton maybe you can look at as a combo guard. He's not a point guard. Rob Dillingham, cool. You can label him as a point guard, even though he's more of a scoring point guard. But he 7 assists. He's growing as a passer. That's what you need him to do. But there's no point guard to run the system. What's the thing that we've always said about Billy Donovan's system? It looks the best. It operates the best when you have a point guard that's able to actually operate it. And that's what the Bulls have lacked so far. So If they can get that going, cool, great, functional, whatever. We'll see if they can actually get that going. But not to say that I have necessarily the highest hopes for that, but I'd love to be proven wrong on that. And let's see if the Bulls can, actually do some things once Josh Giddey's back as far as the development aspect. Wins or losses, I'm over that. I'm not. Listen. Every win at this point is going to be complete and utter shock for me if you can get a win here. So I'll take that for what you will. But the overarching question that I have from this is, even though I know that he will, I want to be clear here. This is not me trying to start a campaign. I wish I could, but I don't think it's going to be fruitful because this front office isn't trying to hear it. How the hell should Billy Donovan last past the season? I want to be clear. Not everything here is Billy Donovan's fault. I'm not Melvin. Shout out to my boy. I'm sorry, Winton. Shout out to my boy Winton Mahorn. I'm not Winton where I'm like everything's Billy Donovan's fault, because Billy Donovan doesn't choose the roster construction. He didn't choose that. Billy Donovan, I guarantee you, didn't choose one of those trades. That's an AK thing. I'm not saying he wasn't consulted or informed. Hey, this is the route that we're going. But at the same time, this is going to end up being Billy Donovan's 5th losing season as the head coach of the Chicago Bulls out of 6 seasons. 5th. I said it once before. I broke it down on a whole episode. That doesn't happen in sports a lot, much less basketball. It does not happen. Like we're talking about, we've seen, go and look at how many coaches we've seen that have had winning records with their teams that have gotten fired over the last 2 or 3 years. But yet Billy Donovan maintains. Death, taxes, and Billy Donovan being the Chicago Bulls head coach. I don't understand why this front office does not see this as an opportunity to move off and get a coach in here that can. Sometimes you just need a change of the voice needs to change in the room. And if we're not there yet with Billy Donovan, best believe it's coming. Now, maybe you staved that off because you do have so many new players here, and you're going to continue to have so many new players based off how this offseason is probably going to go for you. But I don't understand how Billy Donovan has survived this situation in the sense that there is still no legitimate talk about Billy Donovan being removed. Yeah, there was that rumor about the Duke coach, but you saw that completely die down because that got started by a non-legitimate source that is not to be taken seriously as a moniker on what the Chicago Bulls are planning on doing with their head coaching situation. Billy Donovan, coaches don't survive what Billy Donovan's surviving. And the fact is, this is where it gets to how bad and how much of malpractice this is for the Chicago Bulls to do what they've been doing. Because coaches don't survive this. Coaches don't go through coaches don't survive having 5 losing records out of 6 seasons, regardless of the reason why. But yet Billy Donovan maintains. Billy Donovan survives. He's like the damn cockroach. It's like this whole franchise can burn down, and somehow Billy Donovan and John Paxson are still going to be part of the franchise. I don't know. It's baffling to me. And listen, even if you want to remove the losing and winning record, do you really think Billy Donovan is the best to develop players? I don't think that. I'm not saying that he's completely horrible at developing players either, but he's definitely not the coach that you look at and say, if we're focused on develop, you get a top 10 pick in this draft, you want Billy Donovan to touch that pick? That's what you want? You get 2 picks in the top 20, you want Billy Donovan to touch those players? Whoa. To touch the development of those players? Come on, man. What are we doing here? And that's the part of this franchise that makes absolutely no sense, and that we continue to do the same thing and expect different results, and that is why. Those are the things that make me concerned about what this team is really trying to do. But hey, it is what it is. Billy Donovan's going to be here more than likely, and we're just going to have to deal with it. Now, I want to move on from that and talk about Jeremy Sochan. So Jeremy Sochan was released by the San Antonio Spurs, and at that point in time, right, after that's happened, people are, of course, going back to, understandably so, the rumor that popped out earlier around the trade deadline that the Bulls were interested in Jeremy Sochan. And so those things go hand in hand. And so there are a number of Bulls fans that are now looking at this and saying, all right, the Bulls need to make this move for Jeremy. I can't tell you how many people I've seen say, oh, the Bulls, we got to go out and get this Jeremy Sochan kid. Jeremy Sochan is a slight step above Patrick Williams. I'm just going to be clear, and he's not as good of a shooter as Patrick Williams has ever been. Let's look at their career numbers, for example. Career-wise, Patrick Williams has averaged 9.1 points per game on 7.7 shots per game, a 44% shooter from the field, a 39% shooter from three-point range, and he's averaged 4 rebounds, 1 assist, right under a steal per game, and 0.6 blocks per game. Jeremy Sochan, on the other hand, has averaged 10.4 points per game. Let's keep in mind this as well. Jeremy Sochan has started most of the games that he's played. Out of 212 games, he started 149. While Patrick Williams has started more games, as he started 214, he's played 327 games. Now, Jeremy Sochan also is a 46% shooter from the field and a 28% shooter from three-point range. He's averaged for his career 5.6 rebounds, 2.6 assists, 0.4 blocks, and 0.8 steals. He's slightly better than Patrick Williams. But the amount of Bulls fans that have now talked about Jeremy Sochan as if he's some player that the Bulls can't possibly not sign, I don't get that. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't get that at all if I'm being 100% honest with you. On top of that, yeah, he's 2 years younger than P. Will. I'll give you that. He's 22 instead of 24. He's 2 years younger than P. Will. Okay, but, and again, I'm not mad if the Bulls do sign him as a buyout. Buyout, it's rarely that they stay around long term. If the Bulls want to, for example, let's say Leonard Miller, they look at that and say, we'd rather give Jeremy Sochan, who's actually averaged double-digit scoring in this league, and we can get more size. Let's add Jeremy Sochan. It's not the end of the world if you add Jeremy Sochan. I want to be clear. That's not what I'm saying at all here. But more so the fact that people are really talking about this like it's going to do something for the Bulls, and it's really not. I hate to tell you this, it's really not going to do nothing. Y'all are going to be just as frustrated with Jeremy Sochan by the end of it as San Antonio Spurs fans were by the end of it. And just the amount of cap that's now going on with this Jeremy Sochan potential signing, it is completely crazy to me. Now, for what it's worth, Shams Charania did say that Sochan is expected to decide between multiple teams that have interest in him. He did not name those teams. I would not be surprised if the Chicago Bulls are one of those teams. But hey, if he draws some interest from the Bulls, cool. I just want to put this out here now. I will not be surprised at it at all if y'all look at this and be like, damn, okay. All right. But hey, the Bulls are turning into Second Chance University. That's who the Bulls are turning into. Josh Giddey, second chance here with the Chicago Bulls. People are hoping that Rob Dillingham is going to get a second chance here with the Chicago Bulls. You can say in a lot of ways, Colin Sexton's like on third, fourth chance. You can say Jaden Ivey, a second chance here with the Chicago Bulls, and see what they do with him in restricted free agent. So you can say that as well, right? Anthony Simons, third year university for that with the Chicago Bulls, but I think you kind of know who he is. He's kind of proven as a player. You just got to get to a winning team. So, I mean, cool. If the Bulls want to turn it into Second Chance University the rest of the way for this team, for the season, great. Give Jeremy Sochan a chance, right? He is a former lottery pick as well, so take that for what you will. He's pick number 9. So, hey, he can go along with Jaden Ivey, who was a former lottery pick. Anthony Simons, who was a former – I don't think Anthony Simons was. Rob Dillingham, who was a former lottery pick. So you have that to look at, and hey, I guess we'll see what the Bulls do with it. But let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think Jeremy Sochan actually fits this team? Because I think there are some major, major questions for Jeremy Sochan, both defensively and offensively. But hey, maybe that's just me. The Bulls can create the spot, though, to sign him. There's not a really question about that. Leonard Miller, who's less proven, they can waive him, not much there, and then they can sign him, and that's what it comes down to. So we'll see what happens there. Last topic before we get up out of here, we now have kind of more details, and this happens after every trade deadline. This one comes from Brett Siegel on the Bulls and their failed attempt to trade for Yves Missi, saying this. Missi was another heavily discussed center this trade cycle, with the Chicago Bulls holding strong interest in him. Although Chicago attempted to trade for Missi on the day of the trade deadline, utilizing several second-round picks they had acquired. Keep that in mind. What did I say? I did say before, this is not going to be a long-term tanking. All the second-round picks that the Bulls acquired, they're going to look to add to moves this upcoming year. But Brett Siegel points to that. He also says that the Pelicans are not open to trading the center unless they would receive a first-round pick. So it seems like the Bulls, again, as they try to hold a strong interest for Tari Eason, they had a strong interest in Yves Missi. Those just got turned down because of the requirements of the other team. And so AK was trying to do something more than just stack this team with guards. You don't get a lot of credit for trying, but I do want to acknowledge that he did actually try to make some smart moves for this team. And I do think getting Yves Missi and a shift in his role, giving him more opportunity, could be another one of those second chance university options that the Chicago Bulls could have looked to explore. It just didn't work out for the team. We'll see if it changes in the offseason and how that thing could shake out. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. With that said, we do have one voicemail I want to get into. This one's from the General Brandon L. Jet.
What's going on, Haize? Brandon L. Jet here. Leaving a voicemail for the mailbag. And after a couple of days to decompress and assess what's going on, I got something to say. And this one is going straight towards AK and his retarded-ass coach, Billy Donovan. I sat back and I watched a Minnesota game last night between them and the Hawks, And boy, did Io look good. And it just baffled me. How did they let that man go for what he got back, along with Kobe White and the rest of the gang? It also baffles me that they've been borderline mediocre to trash in the entire time that AK has been president of basketball operations and Billy Donovan has been coach, that they are able to have such astounding job security. I don't get it. There's nothing to even cheer for with this team right now. It's like they don't care about winning. They have no desire to win. I don't even know half of the players up on this roster. And there is no direction for the future with this guy. And to sit here and watch him with his press conference that he did right after the trade deadline, he might as well spit in all of our faces and say, screw you guys, I'm getting paid, nobody can fire me, and I'm here to say. It's tiring. It's frustrating. I don't have no desire to watch this team until both AK is fired, Billy is fired, and they can take punk ass Mark Eversley with them. They have no vision with this team. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. They have no direction, nothing like that. They always move players that need to be moved late. They walk away from value a year too late, and now they're just lost in the sauce with no direction. So, I'll rock with you, Haize. I'm always going to be here for the channel. But this Bulls team, fuck them, and I'll leave it right there. Peace.
The Io trade is going to be one that completely haunts this team, I think, for years. I really think the Io trade, whether he stays with the Minnesota Timberwolves or not, the Io trade is going to haunt this team for years, because had you had actual structure for him, you had a 6th Man of the Year candidate, and he's continued to prove that for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And all those people that doubted, they're like, oh, Io's not good, he's just a role player. Look at what Io's doing for this Minnesota, a winning team. So this is why I say when people say things like, oh, well, yeah, this player isn't a winning player, you never know how much of that is based off the situation. Io's now thrived even more than what he's done in an actual winning situation, playing off all-star caliber players in Anthony Edwards, and look at what he's doing here. This is why I say, like, all those things when people are like, oh, X player could never be X on a winning team. You never know based on what that winning team needs. That's why you have to build a winning team first and figure out the pieces and how the parts fit together before you can really say that, right? That's why I bottle back on Von on all the time. So, we'll see what happens here. But it sucks. As far as AK and Billy Donovan's job security, I go back to my first segment there. It makes no sense why Billy Donovan has the job security he does. And as far as AK, I knew when the Bulls hired AK, he was going to get at least a decade. That's what happens when you're the president of operations. Keep in mind, we've only had, 3 in team history, I believe, maybe 4. But it was Krause, it was then Pax, and now it's Arturas. We don't change that role a lot. So that's why it's so important that you get that role right, because Jerry's only going to pop his head out of his cave once every 10 years and be like, oh yeah, that president ain't good, let's get another one in here. And that's just the reality of it. So I agree with you fully, Jet, and it's unfortunate, but hey, that's where we are with the Bulls, man. But we're gonna get through. We're gonna get through this together as a team, as a fan base. We're gonna get through this together. That's what Chicago Bulls Central's here for, and we'll see what we can do. But that's it. At the end of the day, Bulls fans, there are some real questions about this team. Is there an actual plan? Or is once again the plan just hope? Is this team hoping that they're gonna luck into something with their flexibility, with their cap space, all that type of stuff? Drop your thoughts down below on all the topics that we had today. Like the video. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel as well. You can follow us at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. BullsCentralPod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode, stay safe, go Bulls, and always see red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.